I'm about to say something that could quite possibly piss off the entire internet. You should not be listening to Mr. Beast's YouTube advice. Now listen. Before you come for me, I don't dislike Jimmy, aka Mr. Beast. I think he's done something amazing and like once in a lifetime-y, but OMG. People use him as like the king of YouTube and quote his advice all the freaking time. And I'll be honest, 99% of the advice that I've heard is garbage. Because here's the thing, y'all. Mr. Beast has built a channel that is very specific. It is a very sensationalized channel. It is a very entertainment-based channel. It is a very much so like a style of channel that he started. But that is not the style of channel that 99.9% of people are trying to go for on YouTube. Not only that, but homeboy is a little bit disconnected from reality. He has a lot of money, a lot of time, a lot of people, a lot of space, a lot of opportunities that, again, 99.999% of YouTubers do not have and won't have ever, or for a very long time at least. A few weeks ago, I heard a colleague of mine in the business world quote him talking about how basically he has said like one good piece of content is better than being consistent. And when you look at Mr. Beast's main channel, he doesn't upload very often at all anymore. It's like, once every few months. But he can do that. He can do that because he did upload weekly or bi-weekly or whatever for years. He can do that because he has millions upon millions of subscribers who come back and watch every video of his. So only publishing once a month or once every 3 months or once a year or like whatever it might be is fine because all of those subscribers are still going to be there when he comes back because he's built that up already. He has already built credibility with his viewers, with brands, and with the platform. And so if he wants to spend 6 months creating one piece of content and release one piece of content every few months, he can do that. But you can't. You have to be consistent. You have to be consistent to gain the trust of your audience. I have to be consistent. We have to be consistent to make sure that YouTube doesn't forget about us, to make sure that YouTube sees us as like a viable channel. We have to be consistent because we're us and we're not Mr. Beast. And he's using very specific advice for his own self and telling people things that are just going to set them up for failure. He talks about spending $5,000 plus on thumbnails. Y'all, thumbnails are important. I will say that until I'm blue in the face. They are. They're very important. They're a thing that most people do not spend enough time on. They are something that I think everybody should pay attention to. But to spend $5,000, that's stupid, to be honest. It really is. Have you seen his thumbnails? They're not $5,000 worthy. They're things that I could recreate in Canva, no problem. And standing on stage and talking about how he spends $5,000 on a thumbnail is going to do a couple things. One, I do believe he probably says like, y'all don't need to do this, blah, 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 and sure, whatever. But when you're looking at someone who's been super successful on the platform and he's telling you that he spends $5,000 plus on thumbnails, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna be that successful because I can't do that. And that's all bull hockey. Jimmy has been quoted multiple times talking about how he takes all of the money he makes and sinks it back into videos, whether that would be with like his team or the actual production or like a space or like whatever, right? And that's also not super realistic for most people. He has built his entire business on the back of just hoping that what he's done will be successful. Now, can he switch? Can he change? Can he change directions? Absolutely. And he has more advantage to do that than like you and I do. But he's going to have a falling from fame moment. He's going to have an instance when his channel just doesn't do as well, when someone else comes up and is the new Mr. Beast. His style of video is going to get old. Like, how many times can you watch someone, order 1,000 times from a Hardee's drive-thru? My kids were watching that one the other day. Or watch someone, buy a $1 plane ticket and a $500,000 plane ticket. How many times can you watch someone like travel across the world on a penny? Like, all of these things are things that, what's the point? you know? And so eventually his style of content is going to not be something that people love to watch anymore either, because we change and we evolve, and entertainment changes and evolves. So not only could he have like a fall from fame personally, right? Like maybe something could happen or whatever, and like he just doesn't do as well, but also his style of video could kind of, you know, not be a thing anymore. And I've heard people say, well, he diversifies his income by, you know, Beast Burger and Feastables. Y'all, that is still stuff that only sells because he's him. Ain't nobody out here trying to go to a Mr. Beast Burger, whatever it's called, that just wants a good burger and fries. Like, that's not the point of the restaurant. The point of the restaurant is to give his fans an experience of his brand. The same thing with Feastables, y'all. I bought my kids those cookies for Easter. They're not very good. So yes, he's diversifying his income, but he's tying all of his diversified income into things that depend on him doing really well on, you know, what he's doing now and having that same fan base and audience base. And I say all that to say that, like, he's a very unique case. He's the exception to the rule, not the rule. And I honestly cringe when I hear somebody quote Mr. Beast's advice. Some of it's great. You know, I'm not going to sit here and say he doesn't have great advice. He does. He has done an amazing thing. I'll say that again. I'm not saying I dislike him or I'm discrediting his success, because it's not at all what it is. He's done an amazing, amazing thing that most of the YouTubers on the platform will never be able to recreate or do or get to the level that he is. And we have to give him like his props for that. For sure. But 99.9% of channels here on YouTube are not trying to be the next Mr. Beast. They're not trying to create these sensationalized videos. They're not trying to do all of this stuff. They're trying to build legitimate businesses. They're trying to build brands and channels that the everyday person wants to watch. And I've only listened to a few podcasts with him on them, and he is, again, very, very smart. I'm not discrediting that at all. And he's been smart the way he's, you know, done his thing. But when he talks about the fact that he spends all of his money on more videos, the business person in me literally dies a little. He should be investing that. He should be buying properties. He should be, you know, doing all of these things that are going to set him up for success later, not doing what's good for the 20-something-year-old right now, you know, because again, he's going to have a time when Mr. Beast is not Mr. Beast anymore. Like, look at anybody. Look at any famous person. Look at any like famous, you know, creator or actor or like anybody. They had, you know, a rise to success, some faster than others, some slow, like whatever. And then they got to the top and they might have stayed there for a while, but eventually they're going to come down. Whether it's just that, you know, people forget about them or are less interested in them, or they have like a scandal or they get canceled or like whatever, right? I listen to a lot of like creator podcasts, creator YouTube channels, things like that. And they're all very dude centric anyway, which, you know, again, whatever, but like women are not out here like, oh, let's all follow Mr. Beast's advice. Like, we're just not. And I see that like he is the advice that is always like fallen back on, or he's the channel that people always reference, or he's the creator that people always reference. And I just want to encourage you that, one, if you can't, you know, spend $1 million on each video or like whatever he spends, it's okay. You can still be successful. If you can't spend $5,000 on each thumbnail, it's okay. Create good thumbnails. You can still be successful. If you're trying to follow any of this like sensationalized advice where it's like, you know, create like an amazing piece of content and put it out, and create an amazing piece of content and put it out, and not do anything in the in-betweens, and you're only putting out content every once in a while and you're not growing, it's because you don't have that luxury. Mr. Beast has undoubtedly worked hard to get where he is. Again, not discrediting that, but to give advice for his current self, or even like what has worked for him, you know, from like 1 million to 5 million or whatever, is unrealistic advice for 99% of creators out there. So if you are constantly hanging on to his advice, hearing his advice quoted, you know, hearing him be like the person everybody follows kind of thing, I just want to be the voice of reason that, like, for most of us, the stuff he talks about is not going to work. It's just not. We need to be consistent. We don't need to be spending $5,000 on a thumbnail. We don't need to be spending every bit of the money we make. You need to focus on creating good content. being consistent, because consistency does matter, especially if you're under like 1 million subscribers, okay? Consistency matters. Creating good content, being consistent, creating good thumbnails that you yourself can create or can be created for you pretty cheaply, and focusing on your niche and the people that want to watch you. You don't need to be worrying about this advice that's not applicable to you. And if you're a business owner trying to grow on YouTube, your strategy is going to be very different than someone who's a creator who's trying to grow on YouTube. I've done both. Like, I'm in my creator era now, right? But I've been the business owner girl who my strategy was really to get leads and sales, and like that was the point of YouTube. And the strategy is very, very different. And so if you're trying to follow advice like that Mr. Beast has, and you're creating a channel that's very different from his, the advice is not going to be the same. So, stepping off my soapbox, if I pissed off the entire internet, oh well, I've done it before. And yeah, I guess that's all.